Hey everybody, I'm Teresa Paganini. I'm the owner of Love Yourself Lean, and I thought it was a great time to tell my story because so many people ask me, "Why are you in this business? You're fit, you're lean. How do you really have the right to talk to people about emotional eating, body dysmorphia, mental craziness with weight loss, how to lose weight, any of it?" And so I've given bits and pieces. I've shown my before and after picture a few times, but I thought it was time to really just start from the beginning and give the whole thing. So it all starts in childhood with my mother. Doesn't it always? So kind of typical and cliche, but it's true. My mom is this amazing woman. And some of you that follow me know my mother, and you can attest she's pretty freaking awesome. And in fact, I'm going to share my screen. So I recently just posted on Facebook. There we go. A picture of my mom and I. There we are. She's amazing. And but as you can see, she's overweight. She's been overweight really her entire life. And the reason why that's so important is because as amazing as my mother is, she really only defines her own value by her weight. Not that she's got this ginormous heart, not that she is an incredibly smart, capable woman. If I've ever seen an example of ingenious adaptability, it's my mother. If I've ever seen somebody who is capable of speaking their truth and standing their ground at 4'11", that is my mother. She is this strong, indomitable, amazing woman. And the only thing she ever saw about herself was her weight. And she was so self-disgusted by the fact that not only was she overweight, but she never seemed capable of no longer being overweight, that this self-hatred just continued to manifest. And so as a kid, watching her and hearing her and how she would degrade herself and how she would hold herself back in so many facets of life because she didn't think she was worthy, and how she would abuse herself with food, I observed all of this dysfunction. And when you're young, you don't pay attention, right? But I did know she was my hero. She was my best friend. She was my idol. She's who I wanted to be. And she hated who she was, and it was heartbreaking. And as I went through puberty, when you start to kind of observe different things as your own body starts to change, I recognized my mom's dysfunction with food and how her self-worth was just so very low, and it was heartbreaking. And so I studied everything I could and on exercise and nutrition in this hopes that I could help her and I could save her. And during that, we had moved from New Jersey to Florida. And this is important because this is where my own baggage, we all got baggage, this is where mine came in. So growing up in New Jersey, it was truly a community raising kids. And so I was out from dawn until dusk, where, every neighbor just kind of had a head out looking for the little Paganini kid and kids. I'm one of four. And you were just kind of out all day and just tons of friends, tons of activity. Like I said, I was one of four. I have three older brothers, and they were also my heroes. I just thought they were little gods. They were wonderful. And I just had this amazing childhood. My mom ran every committee known to man. My brothers were a lot older than I was. And so the Paganinis had a big name in my town. And so I was the town's sweetheart. I was the only Paganini girl. I was the youngest. I was the baby. And because my mom ran everything, everybody knew my family and everybody knew my brothers. And so it was an incredible childhood. Well, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, to me as a 10-year-old, all of a sudden we moved to Florida. And at the time, because my brothers were old enough, they didn't move with us. So I went from being one of four to being an only child. And then going from a huge community of families and children, we moved to really this retirement, quiet town area of Florida that did not have a lot of families or a lot of kids. So a lot of differences. The first 6 months we lived in a temporary house while we were waiting for our house to be built. And I don't remember hearing another kid on my block. So very different. And then where I was like the head honcho because I was a Paganini. I was my mom's kid. I always had friends. I was always accepted. Everybody wanted to hang out at my house and wanted to hang out with me. And then I moved and I was the new kid. And everybody had been friends forever. And I was this kid that came in with the funny Northeast accent. And, it never occurred to me kids wouldn't like me. I mean, hey, everybody likes me, right? So I was like, hey, I'm Teresa. What's up? And I was like, I got the look of, yeah, and so it was my first experience with rejection. And so now, mind you, I'm 10 years old, right? So puberty hasn't fully kicked in, but hormones are definitely shifting. So going back to the beginning of my story, right? So I'm starting to recognize my mother's dysfunction with food. She's got an obvious disordered eating and self-worth issues. Now all of a sudden I'm experiencing rejection. And so I've got this amazing mother, right? She's fantastic, yet she can't stand who she is. And it's all because of her weight. Well, now I'm experiencing rejection for the first time, and I feel pretty confident. I'm this good person. So, oh, it must be my weight. Now, mind you, I wasn't an overweight kid. I wasn't a skinny kid, but I wasn't an overweight kid. I was an athletic kid. I was a figure skater. I was a gymnast. I was a ballerina the entire time I was in Jersey. And then as we moved to Florida, we did find a gymnastics school to put me in. I did dabble in ballet still, obviously no ice skating. But so I was an athletic kid, built athletically. So I wasn't really overweight, but the body's changing, right? Hormones are kicking in and I'm experiencing rejection. And what I've learned is you're not worthy because of your weight. So this is when my dysfunction with food started. And at one point, I ended up becoming anorexic in order to gain the affection of these other kids, to gain some level of acceptance, which I just couldn't seem to figure out. And I never really did, to be honest. But so food ended up just becoming my controllable force in this uncontrollable world. But my natural tendency isn't to undereat. My natural tendency is to overeat. I am my mom's daughter. So once I started working in fast food as a teenager, complete opposite spectrum, and I gained 20 pounds in a year. And I just kept gaining, go off to college. There's the freshman 15, leave college, continue to gain weight. And I started to struggle with depression. I did start making some friends, all significantly older than me, all with some not so great habits. I was hanging out with drinkers and smokers, and I was too young to drink, but out every single night eating burgers and wings and pizza. And so just continued to gain weight. And because of my past, that meant I felt worse and worse about myself. So I started to, say no to opportunities that would come by me, and I would I'd avoid men for the most part. I mean, I'm a big flirt and I love to have fun and I would do that. But actual relationships, oh, hell no. There's no way I'm going to allow any sort of intimacy in my life. I'm gross. That was my mindset. So I'm in my young 20s now, and I'm spending most nights at the bars. I am now drinking. I am smoking. I'm continuing to gain weight. I'm falling deeper into depression and lonely. Through all of it, I'm lonely. I don't truly show my real self to my friends. And luckily, I really didn't have to. We had a very social relationship, so I could hide in the social. I didn't form romantic relationships because I just didn't think I was worthy of that. And so at the core of everything, I was just so lonely. And I realized I was taking everything about my mother that I didn't love, and I was leaving everything about my mother that there was to be respected. I wasn't speaking my truth necessarily. I wasn't getting involved in my community. I was self-abusing alcohol, cigarettes, food in every way that I could, and struggling with depression as a result of it. So one day, my girlfriend showed me a picture, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, it was her and some other girl. And I was like, okay, that's a cute picture. Hey, great. So who is that? And she was like, I don't understand. What don't you understand? Who's the girl with you? And she just looked at me and she's like, Teresa, that's you. And I was like, what? I didn't even recognize myself. And that was my first slap in the face that something was significantly wrong. I didn't realize I had gained so much weight. I didn't see that. I knew I was struggling, and I knew I wasn't happy in my body, and that clothes were exceedingly tight and uncomfortable, but I just didn't understand. So that was slap number one. Then I got invited to go on a backpacking trip with another girl, probably in the same shape that I was in. And we decided to do this like on the west side of Canada, and we were from Florida. So big deal. You know, we spent a lot of money and a lot of time going, setting up for this trip. And we go, and we only get about 9 kilometers in, and we're both dying. We're just not fit enough. We can't. And that an adventurer spirit has always been the spirit that I have felt I've adopted, and to not be able to do the adventure was another slap in the face. And so, the second day of the backpacking trip, we just hiked right back out. We just knew we couldn't do it. And so I spent the next week that we had scheduled to be backpacking and couldn't. We were staying at hostels. We were broke 20 somethings, and I just was drinking, smoking, and eating. I was self punishing as much as I could, and but also reflecting and thinking like, what is becoming of my life? What is becoming of me? Because I'm in my 20s. This should be the prime. I mean, I should be dating and partying and experiencing and laughing and just having this great time. And I wasn't. I could put on the fake face, but I was not happy. And I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted to do. I was in a really nowhere job. I was living in government housing because I was making so little money. Um, my life wasn't really what I wanted it to be. And it was really the slap in the face that brought to my attention. It wasn't what I wanted it to be because of me. I was doing all the wrong things. Um, I went to college for exercise and sports science and nutrition, and I was overweight. And that's when it hit me that it wasn't a knowledge problem. This had nothing to do with not knowing how to eat or how to move. I wasn't doing it. And why? Why wasn't I doing it? And that's when I decided I need to make some changes. And it was on that trip of failure that I decided to fail forward. And instead of continuing to beat myself up and use various um, alcohol, cigarettes, food as weapons to just self-validate that I wasn't worthy, that I was a failure. I decided I needed to switch that. And I understood this was a mental thing. Now, that's kind of the truth. The other truth was I had convinced myself I had a thyroid problem and that I needed a weight loss pill. But I didn't knew I hadn't been doing great on my nutrition and exercise. So I needed to put myself on a strict program so that way in 6 months I could take the proof to my doctors that something was wrong with me. I didn't truly at that point want to admit I was the problem. So because of my studies, because of my past, because of trying to save my mother, I knew what to do. So I started cooking all of my meals. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. I started food logging, and I started exercising. I exercised 30 minutes 3 times a week at my house. There was no way I was going to a gym. And I thought I was going to die super hard. Step aerobics in my living room. I could make it through the warm up, and that was about it. Have to pause, take a break. Anyway, after 30 days of this, now I've done a full 180, mind you, not an ounce. I lost nothing, nothing. And I was so devastated and so like, WTF, I am killing myself. I've lost nothing. But then I thought, oh, wait. That means there is something wrong with me. Hey, it's not my fault. I got to validate it's not me. So I was like, okay, 1 month's not enough. Doctor's going to look at that and be like, nope, keep going. So I got remotivated by another failure and decided to fail forward and just keep going so I'd have the proof I needed to take to the doctors to get my weight loss medication. So I continued. And that was when my body figured out it could trust me. I was no longer on this yo-yo fad diet, severe restriction, fall off binge, severe restriction, fall off binge. really my body just didn't trust that this was the new way of living. So it just didn't respond. But after I continued, I stayed the course, all of a sudden the weight started to just fall off. And that's when it occurred to me, okay, wait, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm doing what it takes to look and feel my best, and my body is responding. And that's when I was like, okay, so obviously I can do this. I just proved to myself, not the doctors, I can do this. So what stopped me before from doing it? Why did I want to believe something was wrong with me? I would rather take action. No, I'm sorry. I would rather have something wrong with me, like physically wrong with me, a thyroid problem, something, than actually just admit I have full control. And that's really when I understood it was a mind thing. So I really did a lot of journaling, and through the journaling process understood why I continued to self-sabotage myself, why I didn't really take responsibility for my own consistent love of self. And that was it. It was a lack of love of myself. And it helped me through the journaling process understand it's because that's what I observed all my life from my mom. She was this amazing woman and she hated herself. Okay, so if she couldn't love herself, why the hell could I? Like, I'm definitely not as smart and as strong and as indomitable as she is. So what makes me lovable? And that's what I had to figure out first. Why am I worthy of love? And what does that look like? Right? So I could just start saying I loved myself, but so what? What does that really look like? What does that feel like? What do I have to do to prove to myself that I am lovable? And when I started to change my thought pattern of, okay, yes, I want to see myself as lovable from me first and then from others. So when I think to myself, God, Teresa, you're so fat, or Teresa, God, you're so dumb, or look at you at your government housing and your nowhere job, like I started to realize, okay, well that's not self-love. So we gotta nip that in the bud. So I started to train myself to hear myself. And anytime negative thoughts came into my head, I would picture this big red stop sign. And then, okay, so how can I restate this that feels true, but is much more positive? And then what comes out of my mouth? I refused to ever accept a compliment. They made me so uncomfortable. I didn't think I was worth anything. I was always speaking down of myself. And I recognized, okay, well, once again, that is not what self-love looks like. So we got to change that. And all of this took time. Like this took practice. I failed over and over and over and over again. But through my failure, I just was dedicated to failing forward. I used to see failure as a weapon. Like this is just validation. Instead, I was like, no, first things first. Failure is not. Failure is what I make of it. And that is when I learned failure was my greatest gift. Like this is when I had my greatest growth. And so through this process, I was able to start changing my mindset, start changing my thoughts, start changing my words, and changing not just my behavior, but maintaining the change in behavior. Learning to forgive myself when I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm in the mood for like donuts and a mocha today. And making that mindful decision about, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to forgive it. We're going to move on versus binging and punishing myself through food. It's not the donut and coffee that made me fat. It was the 15 donuts after I had the one because I was pissed at myself that made me fat. So through this process, through this long but extremely valuable process, I learned how to create and keep my ideal body, how to speak my truth, my new truth, not my mother's truth, which is the truth I was living by, but to speak my own and to go after opportunity. Shortly after this process, I switched jobs and made, it was over $10,000 more a year at this new job. And I then, shortly after that, was promoted and the leader of a new section of my department where I got to travel all over the country and teach other people how to do their jobs. Within a matter of just a few years after that, I had doubled my salary. I had bought my first house. I had bought a new car, and I had allowed myself to go after the guy that I had a crush on forever and didn't think I was worthy of. He was beautiful. He was popular. He was everything everybody else wanted. And yeah, I never thought I could get him, and I did. All of this because I changed my mind. It truly had nothing to do with my body. It had to do with my mindset. And once I understood that, everything else fell in line. And now, over 20 years later, I'm still maintaining my weight. I actually left my very lucrative, cushy corporate job to start this business, believing in my ability to help others and to change their lives. I am no longer with that original guy that I thought was amazing, but I am truly with a real amazing guy, one who truly loves me and puts me first and allows me to feel safe then to be able to give my love to him. We've built a beautiful family and a beautiful home. And my life is really awesome because I allow it to be. I refuse to live in anything less. I now go on adventures. I travel the world. I teach fitness classes in Jamaica because I can. There's so many things that have become amazing, and I'm so different from that girl I used to be. And yet, I still struggle. There are times the depression wants to hit. There's times I want to self sabotage. But now I have the tools to win. I have the tools that I no longer in this area need to fail forward. I can win and feel confident I know how to win. And in those small, short, minuscule moments that I do fail, I can forgive. And I have found that those are the most powerful things I've ever done for myself. And that is why I do what I do. That is why I focus my business specifically on people that struggle with their weight as a result of emotional eating. That's a mindset problem. There are a gazillion diets out there. There are a gazillion supplements out there. You don't need me for that. I want to help those that don't believe that they're worthy, that don't actually understand their ability to create their own best body and best life, that you are the most powerful being in your world. And when you decide to love yourself and you decide to take ownership of your health, of your happiness, of your mindset, and yes, then of your weight, you can lose your weight. You can keep it off. You can catch those self-sabotage moments. You can stop the emotional eating. You can feel safe in your emotions. There are so many aspects of your life that change when you start by changing the core root of you. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm so fulfilled by it. And I'm so grateful for all of you that allow me to work with you and do that with you. So I want to end this video just by giving you an opportunity, a very, very inexpensive, low risk opportunity to learn more about how to shift your mindset, because that is the core. There's a link that I'm going to add to the chat right now. And if you click that, you'll be able to see what I'm offering. There's a variety of services that I throw out on there, and I give a whole bunch of them away, over $1,500 worth of stuff, and it's all for $7, not to give away my secret. But so many people, there's a vulnerability to this. And there's a safety in focusing on weight loss. There's a safety on focusing on food. And there's a vulnerability required to no longer do that until you heal the inside. And so a lot of people are hesitant to sign up with me. And I want to break that barrier, which is why I put this program together at such a ridiculous rate, because I need people to take the scary step, which is simply to try something different before you start your next diet and see how it changes things. And the easiest way I can do that is to make it at a very affordable rate, so you can experience what it's like at very low risk and very actual low vulnerability, because the first few programs I offer, you don't have to talk to me personally. You work through it yourself. So click the link, take a check it out. And I would love it if you felt inspired to share your own stories and help you how you would love to help yourself and help others. Have a phenomenal rest of your weekend. It is gorgeous, at least where I'm at. I hope it's gorgeous where you are too. And I'll see you later. Ciao.